about how things should work and about the effectiveness of this particular administration of President Obama. There seems to be a particular strife that's going on right now between two quote-unquote leaders, and I just wanted to ask you what you thought about that.
Well, I'm hoping it's resolved by now. I haven't heard anything very recently, but I think you're referring to Tavis Smiley and Reverend Sharpton, the discussion that they were having on air regarding the fact that Reverend Sharpton had made a comment, is alleged to have made a comment that President Obama shouldn't be expected to ballyhoo the black agenda. That it's not really something that he has to make a big deal about. And then it was either misconstrued or misunderstood by Tavis Smiley, because he then made a comment that our so-called black leaders should not make comments that the black agenda shouldn't be addressed because we have some real issues and things that need to be talked about. And then, because Reverend Sharpton and Tavis Smiley have, had communication before, Tavis Smiley actually called into Reverend Sharpton's show, and they had a discussion back and forth. And I think the tone was basically, Reverend Sharpton being upset that his commitment to the black community seemed to be questioned from the comment that he made. And Tavis Smiley was just trying to say, look, I'm just saying that the black agenda does need to be addressed. I think one of the important parts, and it's funny because when I heard the entire exchange, they're both right. But we're getting back into this whole infighting thing that's really counterproductive, which has gone on for years and years within the black community. Because, while a perfect example is the job situation, we're trying to create jobs now. That's the #1 focus of the government. You can create jobs, but then there is a black agenda connected to that, because black people, for years, there's been jobs and they haven't gotten them. Right. Our situation has always been that the joblessness has been greater in our communities, and that people are discriminated against in terms of. So, even though the president does have to be president of the entire country, even if he creates jobs, somebody does need to make sure that there isn't discrimination in hiring, that there is equal opportunities, or that there are laws and regulations that are going to justify are going to make sure that black people do get their share of the pie. So both of them were right. You're not going to make right. You're not going to only concentrate on black people because you are governing the entire country, but you do have to be specific. You have to specifically address some issues of racism and discrimination that exist. My problem with the entire situation is, I think, again, we have all of this back and forth fighting within our community when we should be getting together, especially on ideas that are mutually, they're not mutually exclusive. They need to actually be done together. And it's interesting because Like It Is, they had a special for Black History Month, and they were talking, they showed clips and things, sort of like the Eyes on the Prize series, clips of people back in the day during the Civil Rights era. And they had Kwame Ture, or, Stokely Carmichael as he's known back then, and he was talking about the problems that he ran into even with SNCC when SNCC was about to oust him, and he was worried about being, a leader without a group, sort of the way Malcolm was put out there, and, how things deteriorated from there. And he mentioned the fact that one of the problems that the black community has always had is the inability for groups of different mindsets to get together. And they also showed a clip of Eldridge Cleaver, who was talking about the Black Panthers during that time, saying that the Black Panthers at the time, they were actually made up of a lot of the people who were illiterate during the time. They were actually just mobilizing people who had strong convictions and, really wanted the Black Power movement to succeed. But SNCC at the time was the students, the group that was looked at as the intelligent black community that could articulate things a little bit better. And the fact that the two never got together was an issue, because it can maintain that division that we always have that keeps us divided and conquered.
Well, I don't have a problem with there being strife within the community. I don't, and let me explain to you why. Because I think that it's important that people understand that there are different opinions that are out there, and that other people's opinions need to be respected. But the thing is that Stokely Carmichael talked about, and I think in one of his books he wrote, that even when we have different groups that are at odds, we have to find a way to find common ground. And so when we do that, that's how you form coalitions. So the thing is that you have to figure out what you want, I have to figure out what I want, and find out if they're not mutually exclusive, then we can find a way to work together.